So,
wow.
All right, guys, what you think of the speech as I get the camera in place here?
Who goes first? I'll go. Well, I think you saw we had the event yesterday, and it was basically same reaction. This crowd likes what they're hearing, and the difference between Ted Cruz and other candidates is that he doesn't say these things because he knows the crowd likes to hear them. He says these things because he believes them. Yeah. He's the principled guy.
Yeah, I mean the principles, the content, the principles don't change. What changes a little bit is the personalization of the approach to the audience, but the principles remain steadfast. The anecdotes change.
Yeah.
Wayne, what do you think?
What do you think?
I think he's a bright guy. He's eloquent, and as Jack said, he's a very principled guy. He can give a compelling case for his candidacy and for his platform. No notes. I've seen him speak twice now. I didn't have the opportunity to be at any of the events yesterday, but as I mentioned earlier when I was here earlier in the program.
No teleprompter, no notes.
Exactly. I saw him up in Grafton County. It was the same kind of presentation. He's certainly dynamic, and he knows who he is and what he stands for.
Well, I have a question for you, and I mean it respectfully. He is certainly going after the real hardcore conservatives, the Tea Party type folks, what we call oftentimes the liberty and freedom type folks. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they're, based on the reaction today, because I saw this as a mixed crowd, do you think that he will have a wide appeal to the more establishment side of the party?
Not necessarily to the establishment core, which I think has its own idea and its mind made up, but there are a lot of what we consider establishment Republicans, House reps and stuff in this room, and they were applauding along with everybody else.
I think he's well respected, and yes, I think he has the potential of gathering people outside of the constituency that he's being typecast for. He's consistent. He's principled. He's developing a good record for leadership. Maybe you don't agree with where he stands on certain issues or in his style, perhaps, but you have to admire his passion and his determination. And I think that's something that the country is looking for and the party is looking for. And I think he could broaden that appeal and attract some so-called establishment types, or whatever label you want to use.
Well, we have to we have to acknowledge reality. There are several different wings to the Republican Party nationally,
Believe
as
me,
well as in
Jack
the NHLP.
and I know that well.
Oh yes, well,
two different wings.
And again, as people who are still watching or will watch this later on when we podcast this, I would say, with no disrespect meant, more of the establishment wing with you, Wayne, and more of the Tea Party with you, Jack. I am pleasantly surprised that I've got two of you sitting here side by side as former NHGOP chairs, because generally some people just don't like us. So.
Not only that, but it's interesting to see that having come from a slightly more traditional background and having come from a slightly less traditional background into the party, that we're all saying, I think, that we like what we see and hear with Ted Cruz.
Well, I think that, and I said it yesterday, I had to kind of warm up the crowd yesterday. Basically what I said was, look, the country is thirsting for principled leadership. And we're thirsting for somebody that understands that the Constitution of the United States is being shredded. We got a lawless president. We all know that. And we have a man who has proven while he's been in there that he has the courage and the conviction to stand against this guy and also stand up against those, even in his own party, that are trying to tear him down. I think that he has an awful lot to offer. We have a broad field. This will all play out in the coming months, but I think that you saw, and you made a good point, Skip, because you had a wide range of the Republican Party sitting in this room today, and he was well received even by the rest of the folks.
I would say the same thing up in Grafton where you were at. Mm-hmm. What was the overall reception? One side a little more enthusiastic than the other, or was it pretty well evenly distributed?
I thought it was evenly distributed. Grafton is a fairly diverse county, but it's and it's a good, strong. The party organization up there does a great job with Bruce Perlow and the others. But at the same time, it's you don't view it as it's not as conservative a party organization there, for example, as Stratford would be.
Okay.
At the same time, he was well received. There was a lot of people who liked his message, and everybody appreciated him being there. And certainly one uniting factor in this whole upcoming campaign The senator keeps talking about the Constitution, and even Speaker Boehner, who's I guess you'd have to call him establishment if you're going to call somebody establishment. Speaker Boehner and the majority leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, everybody is appalled at President Obama's constant refusal to follow the Constitution, his constant defiance of the Constitution. That's a big Republican issue, period, across, I think, all segments of the party, and that's going to be important. And the fact that Senator Cruz addresses that is a big plus for him.
Well, certainly this is a state where we're going to see the early results of how the electorate is feeling here in New Hampshire. The question will be, will we progress from being obviously a regional powerhouse, a statewide powerhouse as a political party, because we own 2/3 of the legislatures, we own 2/3 of the governorships, we own the U.S. House, we own the U.S. Senate. The question has been over the last few years is, can the Republican Party get to the Oval Office in D.C.? That has stymied us for years. We haven't had a whole lot of success. We've got I may be liberty and freedom wing of the party. I would like to see a Republican that stands up for Republican ideals in that Oval Office. Do you think we can finally cross that Rubicon and take the Oval Office this time with the current crop of candidates? And Wayne, you first.
I certainly hope so. Again, Senator Cruz, and I don't mean to single Senator Cruz out, but he's the guy we're here about this morning. He makes a lot of comparisons between Barack Obama and Jimmy Carter, and I think that's appropriate. And Barack Obama has certainly poisoned the well for Democrats. At the same time, if ultimately all of us come together behind one candidate after the process runs out, and it needs to be a vigorous and competitive primary season nominating process as we go around the country here in New Hampshire and elsewhere, we get behind one candidate, and hopefully it's a strong, effective candidate. And I don't know who that is. I certainly don't have any choice right now. I'm totally open. It's the first time I could be involved with a primary. It's been a long time. I think if we have the right message and we're organized and committed to winning, I think we can do that. Absolutely.
Jack.
Well, I think that what we really want to see, and you heard to me anyway today, a constitutional conservative speak, and that's what I want to see come out of this primary. And we've got to make sure that happens this time around. We see what happens when that doesn't happen. And the problem is, again, conservatives tend to be their own really undoing. I mean, you have 6 or 7 conservatives running in a primary, and you have one, let's say, establishment candidate. The establishment candidate wins by default. You're splitting the vote among 6 to 7. It's ridiculous. I mean, in 2010, around 72% of the voters that came to the polls, Republican and undeclared, that voted on the Republican side of the fence, they voted for conservative candidates, whether it be Rick Santorum, Herman Cain, Rand Paul, any of those, and there was Newt Gingrich. They split the vote, and we got what we got. Yeah, I didn't have a big problem voting for Mitt Romney. However, I would have problems with other candidates. But I think truly the vast majority of conservatives are true conservatives. There's a lot. There's 42% in the country this message resonates with, and we've got to narrow the field down, hopefully, to one strong conservative going in to the primary.
Yeah. It's interesting. Mitt Romney's a very interesting case, because as the campaign went on, the more you got to know Romney, the more you found him, or I found him at least, to be a very good man and an acceptable candidate for president, even though I was not totally in favor of his policies on day one. And yet, as the campaign wore on, the more the consulting class got their hooks into him, the less focused his message became. And he basically lost his chance. I think he had a good chance going in there.
He did, in the debates especially. Leaving Benghazi out was one of the biggest mistakes I've ever seen a presidential candidate make. That was, quite frankly, meat on the table. I mean, I'll never understand that. But that's water over the dam. We're in a whole new arena right now. Yeah. And I'm gonna be blunt. We don't do it right this time, there'll be no more doing anything. The country's about to go over the cliff. I don't care what anyone says, and that's how close we are. He knows it. And he being Senator Cruz. Right. But we got some others, too, that know it. And I think that Scott Walker, Rand Paul, and a few others, Marco Rubio, But the point is, they also recognize this, and they realize that. And that's another thing. I don't know if I'd want to be president of the United States in 2016 as a Republican. I mean, they're going to be coming into a complete disaster.
It's going to be a huge mess.
And it's a mess, and they're going to have to try to correct it.
Okay, Wayne. 3 things that the winning candidate has to do here in New Hampshire. What are your top 3s? If you were advising any of these folks, what is it that they have to do, cannot make any mistakes, and be better than anybody else?
Number one, they've got to show a respect for retail politics. They've got to be willing to shake as many hands as they possibly can, meet with any sized group that they can muster, whether it's 5 people in somebody's living room or whether it's several hundred or several thousand in an armory. That would be number one. Number 2, they've got to show a strong commitment to getting our fiscal house in order, and they've got to put together a plan showing a tax and spending ideas, offer those. And number 3, they've got to demonstrate that they're going to turn this disastrous foreign policy around that Barack Obama has created, embarrassing us in front of the entire world and undermining our national security. Those would be my top 3.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to go to war everywhere to have a strong foreign policy.
Exactly. And by the way, if you show yourself to be strong as Ronald Reagan did, military conflict can be kept at a minimum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jack, your top 3. And it even means how you set your campaign staff up, too.
Well, I think I completely agree with Wayne on the first issue, and that is you've really, in New Hampshire especially, you've got to get out in retail politics, and that's what's going on here. Some of the other candidates in the race are not used to that.
They're not.
The Senator Cruz made the point yesterday. He said, if this announcement occurred with some other candidates and they announced in, let's say, California, I mean, it's a huge state, so you would have just had a bunch of ads on television. You had some radio spot, some appearances, and so forth. It's a completely different ballgame. So when you come to New Hampshire, and the advantage that New Hampshire offers is with retail politics is we really and truly do a good job of vetting candidates, Wayne.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have for years and years, I think, been the tip of the spear for doing that. And so you really do got to get out there into all of those arenas. And I agree also. I know personally, I mean, I went into rooms where there were 2 and 3 people, and I was in rooms where there were maybe 1,000 people. But that is what it's about, and you have to get here often, and you have to get around the state. And you can't leave segments of the state out. One of the things I learned the hard way was, you really do got to go to the far reaches of the state. Everyone needs to feel like they're included.
You absolutely do, incling winning Dixville Notch.
We call it a small state. It's not that small a state sometimes.
That's like setting your flag on Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
If you win Dixville Notch, it's going to ripple down.
And the second
first precinct to report.
The second thing, as far as I'm concerned, where I differ a little bit on priorities here, is that we really and truly have got to hear and believe in a candidate that really and truly says, look, we're going to get back to the Constitution. It's the foundation upon which this entire country was built. That is what's made us great. And we need to have a president, regardless of who it is, that understands the importance of doing anything and everything to get us back into that arena. And thirdly, the economy. The economy is critical. You heard a few comments today about what he would do, but I really think that to get some immediate reaction in the economy, you got to turn the energy sector loose. That will provide very rapid and well-paying jobs. You got to get rid of the regulation, which I already heard that's a big deal for small businesses, and certainly tax relief. Those are the things that I want to hear from the candidates. I want to and the last thing is, he said it, and I'm glad to hear it. We got to really and truly shore up a very weakened military. We're in trouble right now.
Well, gentlemen, I want to say thank you very much for coming over after a long event already and spending a few minutes with Granite Rock. I don't think I have ever had 2 NHGOP chairs sitting in front of me at the same time. So this was
history's written all the time.
Historic. It's historic. You got it on film too.
And like I said, with different backgrounds, but with far more to agree on than to differ on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Wayne and I have always been that way. Wayne and I have. I think we transcended all of that stuff. I mean,
I think so. I mean, there was a lot else went wrong, but you guys just got on with the job as long as you were able to.
Yeah.
Well, it shows a commitment to the overall mission, the overall objective.
Yeah, and I have a huge respect for that.
All right, folks. Well, there's a couple other folks that are waiting to come over, and I want to say thanks again to you 2 gentlemen. And folks, we're going to take a quick break. This is Grok Talk, a production of GrantRock.com, New Hampshire's leading conservative libertarian blog site. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much.
GrokTV.